So this is Tommy Russo.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Now you're coming in live via Skype.
Via Skype from Maui.
From Maui?
Yes.
Awesome. Where in Maui exactly?
We're right in the downtown urban hub of Wailuku Town.
Ah, okay. I honeymooned in Hana.
Nice.
Yeah, which was very nice. I did that road to Hana,
Right.
which was incredibly dangerous and fun. And then I spent a couple days at the Four Seasons Maui once in a while. Nice place.
Very nice.
I also shoot guns in Maui. There's a great next to the there's a shooting range next to the Four Seasons in that canyon. So I've actually gone clay pigeon shooting. It's fantastic. If you want to go, I'll give you the guy's name. But a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're very lucky to live there. So now you have a question, but I got a package from you this week.
You did.
I did. So the reason I wanted to have you as the first caller is because this is like one of the most brilliant ways to get somebody's attention. So regardless of what your question is, you did a fabulous job of getting my attention by doing something very sincere and interesting. So should I show what you actually did, and then we'll get your question?
Sure. Yeah. Let's go over that.
So
my thought was, after I've been watching the show for a while, I've got ideas that I want to discuss with you.
Right.
And my guess is that you're getting a lot of response from your show, a lot of response from other entrepreneurs. I don't want to be bulked. I don't want to be grouped in that group. I needed to break through that, and I needed to stop you in your tracks and get your attention. And I stewed on it for a few weeks, and this is what I came up with. And it sounds like it worked. Since you just got the package yesterday, and I'm on the show now. Yeah,
it totally worked. Congratulations to you for doing it. This was a brilliant move on your part. Not at all creepy in any way. Very sincere, well thought out, and you got my attention. And now I know who you are. You're from Maui. I know what you do. And this is, I think, a great lesson for people about, I think Seth Godin calls it a purple cow, like doing something a little bit out of the ordinary to get people's attention. So I'm too much drama here, but so I get in the mail this box, and that's obviously the Mahalo logo, and it's on a ukulele box with our tagline, "We're here to help," with the graphics from Answers over here. And then, most impressive, look at the detail here. Fondue and Taurus, my dogs, and then a bunch of quotes from the show. Every entrepreneur wants to go faster. If you're not da-da-da, you're not even over your head. That's from the last show. And then there was a quote here that I looked at and I said, this is something that I don't know if I said that or not. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you said everything. Everything on that box has come out of your mouth.
Everything? Okay, so anyway, all these incredible quotes, which is great. The hashtag over here, and then this. Every CEO needs a ukulele on their desk. And it's incredibly well crafted. And then a little message here from you on the back.
Right.
How long did it take to make this box and construct this?
The copy was what took the longest time. We've got a very talented art department here, so we were able to, well, first off, I publish a weekly newspaper in Hawaii, and I launched a alternative news weekly in 1997 at the age of 23, and I've just been pushing this paper in our market ever since, and so I think we'll talk about some newspaper stuff, but the idea was, how do I get your attention? How do I get across to you with that? And it was important to get your attention, and to, I've been taking what you're saying to heart. I've been listening. I listened to the Purple Cow. It was almost a throwaway line a few weeks ago as a book recommendation, and I went for it. I used Audible. I've been an Audible fan for quite some time. I've had an account for a few years. I think I sucked down 25 books in the past 18 months on Audible, and a lot of the recommendations that have come from you, and kind of taking that stuff to heart. So I wanted to break through all of the noise and get your attention. And
mission accomplished. Now, inside of the box, here's the box. I'm opening it up. Is a little letter from you, which is nice, and I read it and everything. And then here, obviously a ukulele, with I guess there's a little dollar bill into a Hawaiian shirt, which is a nice little touch. Somebody did a little origami, and I don't know how to play the ukulele, but at some point I will learn how to play this properly.
Nice.
Very nice, and So now that you've got my attention, I know a couple of things. This is why you did a good job. I know you're from Maui. I know you're an alt publisher. You're doing local news, and you're a fan of the show. You're obviously an entrepreneur. You're a rabid entrepreneur, from what I gather. So,
yeah.
What's the question? What are you struggling with? What do you want to know? What's behind the man who constructed a beautiful custom box and sent me a ukulele? I got to know.
Well, the idea here is that there's a new frontier for the media business. Right now, media business is falling apart. We know newspapers are failing. We know the daily model no longer works. The TV model and the radio model hasn't got the attention yet, but it soon will. Internet is changing everything. And what I see from my industry as a publisher in the alt weekly business is that alt weeklies were the innovative product to daily newspapers 40 years ago. Papers like the Village Voice and San Francisco Bay Guardian. These papers were progressive. They were alternative. They were the shiny new toy. They were the purple cow of their day. And what's happened, again, is that these papers haven't innovated. They haven't changed. They haven't, the Internet has been out for a while now, and newspaper publishers have had this concern of how do we get our papers online. That's not the right question. The question is how do we dominate our market with news media through this new tool? And it may not be, I don't see the weekly model changing as fast, as rapidly as the daily newspapers the changes are happening there. The overhead is significantly less. We're only printing one day a week. Our staffs are not, a lot of daily newspapers in urban areas have 10 times the staff that a weekly will have. And through modern technology, I think that we can revolutionize it's not just a weekly newspaper anymore. These are going to be regional media companies that produce content further than they in a larger geographic area than they once did, and we need the advantage that a weekly paper has is that we are on the streets. All these alt weeklies across the nation, we have our relationships with the clubs, with the venues, with the restaurants, with the small business folks, and that is what a lot of these online search companies are trying to get into the trenches with us. We're already there, and we don't realize it. So my ideas are to come up with a way to help these small businesses to build the community from the ground up and expand it much wider. Right now the newspapers are complaining about content is being stolen and picked up on blogs, and Google's aggregating all this news across the country, and the revenue and the news sources aren't being credited properly, and the financing isn't going with that either. So if we're losing our content, if we're sharing our content, then why aren't we really sharing our content? Why aren't we building APIs to really get our content out there? Why aren't we building mobile applications to interact with our clients on a street level?
So how is your business doing? I mean, I get the idea that you're trying to revolutionize this and change it. So how is your business doing, and is there a specific question for me?
I do have a specific question.
Yeah.
First, we're doing fine. From a weekly perspective, we're doing fine. We're one of the hottest products on the island. Our daily's owned by a company out of West Virginia, and it's a very long reach. And dailies are struggling. As hard as they're going to work to save what they're doing, it's going to be a difficult task for any daily to make it. Several years from now, let alone 10 years from now. My question is this: if we're as I expand my media company, I'm looking for investors. I'm looking for help. I'm looking for a lot of what you're reading is that these papers don't have the resources to compete at the level that they need to. So I think I have an advantage because I know how we need to compete. I know where we need to compete. I have an ideas of how to get there. But at this point, I don't have the financing to get there.
Right. So you're trying to figure out.
My question is this: I have an established company. I need to bring investors in. At what point do I have to? Am I going to be obligated to sell my company to satisfy investors' needs as far as their return on the money they've invested with me? Or is this something where I can work out a package where I can bring investors in, and maybe the payoffs aren't as large because, in this new model there is profit, but it's a much thinner profit than we've had in the past.
Yeah. So the question about financing, where do you get the financing from? What type of financing should you get is a great question. The main issue is media companies are not a venture capital type of investment. They very rarely have worked out for venture capitalists, and you sort of hinted at why. The return on investment is just not as great. media companies have a more modest return than a software company, than a Google, than a service, than a search engine, than many, you know, et cetera. But I did a blog network, so it was part technology, part platform. So if you were going to try to get venture capitalists, you would have to go for more of a platform type company to help build local news sites, and they might be interested. But they've already invested in a lot of things like Backfence, and it hasn't worked out. Local is the hardest nut to crack. And I think that the local space and that local news space is going to be filled by not big money investors, but by rather local groups of passionate people who want to have it as a lifestyle business, who want to have it as, it's a job, I'm passionate about it, but the same way people open a local restaurant because they're following their muse, they're passionate about it, not to make a great return. And when that happens, I think the magic will come back to the local news. And the investors in it are going to be local people who are affluent, who do it because they love where they live. But it's a hard business, the local business now, for people to really make a lot of money from. So I think you're going to have a hard time getting the sort of big picture investors because they've been burned in the space and very few people have made it work. Maybe Yelp would be an one that has worked, or City Search did work, but those aren't really news products as such. So I think it's going to be very hard to convince investors who are venture investors. I think you will get the local investors who have look at it more for vanity or for they're affiliated with it in some way. They have an affinity for it because they're passionate about it.
Is it possible there's a misunderstanding on the type of new media company? You know, we're talking, when you say that there's difficulty in getting people to invest into media companies, are you still referring to old media companies or a new media company? Because new media changes it all.
Yeah. Even
it's an entirely different model at that point. I mean, it's not a paper product. It's not just a website. It's an entire package that I feel that news agencies or media companies will need to have to create much, much further than they've ever gone. And at that point, it doesn't really feel like the same old models of a media company. So I don't really, you know, in my perspective, those metrics may not have the same effect as they have had in the past.
You know, you might be the guy who figures it out. Nobody really has. I mean, there's been a long series of people. Dan Gilmore tried to do one. A lot of people have tried to do local stuff. Curbed is doing local for real estate.
Right.
There was Met Blogs, and there was LAist, and these other ones. A lot of people have tried it, and they haven't really built it into big businesses, little boutique businesses. Some of them have garnered a little bit of venture investment. It's possible to get it. It's possible you're right about where it's going. I think your nose is going in the right direction. There is something there. So it's going to take, I think you're going to have a better route getting angel investors. I don't think you're going to convince the venture investors because I don't think they're going to understand it yet. They're going to want to see some more proof points. And they're looking at the newspaper business going, yeah, that's being destroyed because people don't want to read it. And they're going to need to be convinced that people really have a need for it. But let's ask Don, since he's here. Are you guys invested in any local businesses, or are there any you're familiar with? And what advice do you have for our caller?
First of all, no, Microsoft is not invested in those sorts of things. I agree with you. I don't think venture capital investors will do it either.
Right.
It's more of an angel thing. Even if you look at the big newspapers, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, those were family-run newspapers that grew into big businesses. They didn't get venture capital investment. Right. Angel investors, yeah, they might do something like this. The problem with hyperlocal is where it's at. There's a great opportunity there. But the problem is scale.
Right.
Investors look for scale. So hyperlocal, by definition, means small.
Right.
Small.
And investors want scale.
Right.
So I don't think you're going to see big investors get into this kind of thing.
Right.
And online's a different matter.
Yes.
If you're doing hyperlocal online and you can scale it across the country or across the world, that's a different matter.
Which nobody's been able to do yet, which means there's an opportunity. And since it's hard, that means there's a really big opportunity. So if you do crack the nut, you would have, I think, have done something significant. But you had a great question. I appreciate the attention, and we'll talk offline. I really thank you for calling. And as a thank you, I'd love to invite you to be my guest at TechCrunch 50, September 14th and 15th, if you can catch a flight from Maui to San Francisco.
Sure.
You think you can make it?
You're hosting a local search summit in San Francisco as well.
I am.
Month?
You will be my guest at that event as well, if you want to come.
Love to.
Yeah,
I'd love
so
to.
we're doing the local search summit, which somebody could put the information on the bottom of the screen here. What's the exact URL of that, Tyler?
LocalSearchSummit.com.
LocalSearchSummit.com. There you go, LocalSearchSummit.com. And the date is July 17th. So we're doing a one-day event about local search, something I'm trying to learn about. And yeah, it'd be great if you come. We can meet in person. We'll get a cup of coffee. And
Great,
Tommy, I really appreciate it. And mahalo for calling in.
Yeah, I expect a little somewhere over the rainbow when I meet with you.
Absolutely, I will.
Get practicing.
Who's the guy who sings that? The big guy who passed away. It's so beautiful.
Biz. Brother Iz.
Brother Iz.
All day.
Can we end the show with that, by the way? Can we get Brother Iz's version of this in the YouTube, and we'll play it for you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tommy, really great call, and really great Purple Cow. And by the way, did you do your homework?
I did, but you know what? I fell asleep the last half hour.
Don't worry about it. But you got to catch up on your homework. We'll talk about it when I see you when we have coffee. I'm going to drill you on your homework.
Okay.
All right, Tommy. Take care,
Right,
and thanks for calling in.
Aloha.